What's up guys, my name is Rylan, and today behind me we're going to be taking an in-depth look as well as going on a test drive of this 2020 Mazda 3 hatchback. Let's go ahead and get the least eventful stuff out of the way. Just do a quick specification rundown so you know what you're getting yourself into before we dive into the exterior and the interior, and then of course go on a nice little drive in this very fun car. So right off the bat, this vehicle gets 26 city and 30 on the highway, so it's not that bad for MPG. It is naturally aspirated, which I love when it comes to throttle response. You don't have to wait for the turbo to spool up. As far as price point, these vehicles start at $23,500 for the hatchback version. The prices went up $100 from 2019. And honestly, they haven't changed really anything on the hatchback version. However, the sedan has a whole list of standard safety features that you just didn't get for the 2019 model compared to the 2020 model. So if you're looking for the hatchback, you want to save a little money, it is wise probably to go for a 2019 model, but you never know. If you want the 2020 latest and greatest, better resale value, then hey, just get the 2020. As far as this price for this vehicle as it sits right now, you're looking at $26,400, and that is because it has the premium package, which comes with a whole list of things that we'll get into. Now, as far as the power plant goes on this vehicle, you're looking at only one powertrain version, and that is a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder. Yes, it is an inline 4-cylinder. Typical for BMWs to have inline engines. This one has it as well, and usually an inline engine means you're getting just silky smooth throttle response, and for this vehicle it has silky smooth throttle response. Now, as far as horsepower and torque numbers, you're looking at 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque, so nice even numbers across the board, and that is thanks to the naturally aspirated power plant. Okay, now taking a look at the exterior, and the first side I want to start off is the side profile. And right off the bat, first thing that I notice is these nice little 19-inch alloy wheels, and they fit the car perfectly, especially against this gray, I believe they call it machine gray metallic paint job. Now, this paint job is a $300 extra, and you know what, it definitely looks nice. As far as paint jobs in general, you can only get this color or this car in two different colors without you having to have an upcharge on the paint job, and that is the blue color and black. The rest of the colors in the lineup, such as the red, you have to pay more for. Now, moving along from the wheels, and you see this nice little silver accents going on. Unfortunately, it doesn't carry to the top of the door sills, but you know what, this is a $26,000 car, so they gotta cut costs somewhere, and trust me, in terms of driving dynamics, they didn't cut costs. It is a very, very good car to drive. Now, moving along from there, and this car does come equipped as standard with keyless entry, so if you want to lock your door, basically touch right there and easy peasy. If you want to unlock it, boom, just like that, and you can get into the car. Now, Mazda comes with just a bunch of safety features. One of the ones I want to point out right now while we're on the side of this vehicle is blind spot monitoring. So if there's someone in your blind spot, the car will alert you by vibrating the steering wheel and showing a little flashing LED symbol on the mirror itself, which is a nice touch. And as far as safety features goes, blind spot monitoring is the one I'd rather have compared to any of them. Now, the last thing I want to point out on the side of this vehicle is this shark fin antenna, and that comes as well with the preferred package. Before, I know I was saying the premium package, but I just got hit with a nice little thought and just realized, hey, they call this preferred package, BMWs call theirs premium package, yada yada. Anyways, that package, the preferred package, is $2,000 more than the base price, around $2,000. You do get a lot of cosmetic and driver enhancing features, which we will touch on as this video progresses. Okay, now moving around to the front of the vehicle, and the first thing that jumps out on me is, of course, this nice aggressive mesh grille. Now, these are very common for Mazda vehicles. They all have this giant mesh grille, and it's very well made. It actually feels pretty cool to touch, run your hand over, and it just looks really premium. Honestly, This car looks more expensive than it really is, and you gotta appreciate that. Now moving on from the grille itself, and you get some xenon headlights. They're not full LED, but the daytime running lights are LED, which is a nice touch, and that comes standard across the board. And then from here you have this little splitter. It's just plastic. There's not much design going on, but overall the front of this car is very sleek, very modern looking, almost futuristic if you will, and everything just kind of slopes downward until it meets this giant old grille. Okay, now moving around to the back of this vehicle, which is by far my favorite side of the Mazda 3. First off though, I want to give a shout out and thank you for John Hine Mazda courtesy loaner vehicle. Appreciate that while you're working on my CX-5. You know, I wasn't really gonna give you guys a shout out, but you sticker slapped the whole back end of the vehicle, so I guess I'm forced to. Now the reason this is my favorite side of this vehicle is the way they made these fenders. They're very rounded and give off the appearance of fender flares, much like the BMW X2 that I just reviewed. And I really appreciate that. Just from the back, looking at it solely from the back, it looks like it has just a lot wider body than it does. You get that nice kind of mirage of fender flares, and you gotta appreciate wide hips on everything. I mean, you just gotta appreciate it. Now moving on from there, and you get these nice little tail lights. They're not full LED, but they are partial LED, and honestly the design at night are really cool. These little 4 circular bulbs light up, and it just looks unique on the road. Moving on from the tail lights, and another one of my favorite features on the back end of this vehicle is this piano black accents that cover the whole diffuser part of the bumper. It looks really nice, especially when there's not a lot of dust on it like there is now. It just shines and makes the car look that much more premium. Now just below that is also dual tipped exhaust ports that are finished in alloy. They look really good against the piano black accent. Now 2 last things I want to go over on the back end of this vehicle is that it does come equipped with a rear view camera, which is standard for all 2019-2020 cars sold in the US, so that's great. And the camera's actually recessed right here, so you'll never be able to see it unless you're doing something like this, like I am now, and frankly I don't think you guys are going to be doing that much. Now since we're back here, we might as well take a look at the trunk. And to open the trunk, it's pretty easy. You just reach behind the Mazda logo, open it up just like that. There is no power lift gate equipped on this trim level of this vehicle, which is unfortunate. Anyways, this trunk comes with a nice little privacy cover that's attached to the hatch itself, and the space back here is definitely ample. You can fit like 3-4 golf bags, not even folding down the seats, as well as a ton of groceries and luggage. And the seats do fold down. It's a 60-40 split, so you get tons of space, and that is one of the advantages of having a hatchback. You get the dimensions of a small vehicle, but at the same time you get storage of basically a small SUV. Okay, now jumping into the interior of this 2020 Mazda 3, and it is definitely a great place to spend time. Honestly, for the price point, this interior is absolutely top notch. I've been in a lot of expensive cars, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, Porsches, whatnot, and you know, times are really changing where cars, entry-level cars such as this, are starting to become excellent when it comes to interior. So right off the bat, I want to start off with the dash. There's a lot going on in the dash of this vehicle. It is a multi-level dash. Basically, the whole dash is a soft touch material, which is really nice. You don't usually expect that on a car in this price point. Pretty close to feeling like real leather. I mean, you have to be a trained professional to realize that this is fake leather. Now moving over and looking at the center control stack, and there's really not much buttons going on, which I actually appreciate. The whole thing is very clutter-free, just minimalistic when it comes to buttons, as well as having these recessed air vents similar to the Tesla Model 3. So it is really cool in here, 100%. And you get your standard stuff. There's dual zone climate control that's standard, so you can adjust different temperatures if you're the passenger or the driver. And then with the preferred package, you get heated front seats, and there's 3 levels of heated seats. and they definitely do get pretty hot. Now just below the center control stack is your push to start button, and pretty much all cars nowadays have push to start, so it's getting to that point where I kind of don't even need to mention it, but hey, it has push to start. And then below that is a USB port, so you can plug your phone in there, get it charged, and it's conveniently placed if you wanted to do Lyft or Uber. Now moving on from there and looking at the entirety of this center console, and you get your traditional gear shift lever. This is a 6-speed automatic. You can get this vehicle in a 6-speed manual, and actually, since I've been driving this for a little bit, I actually would get this car in a 6-speed manual, to be honest. It's just that much fun to drive, especially for the price point. Now the automatic transmission is definitely no slouch as well. It does bang off shifts pretty fast, and you know, just to use, it's pretty traditional. And then just left of that, you have 2 different driving modes, so you can have the car in normal, basically like a comfort mode, and then you can have the vehicle in sport mode, just a toggle of a switch, and that basically makes the vehicle have a little bit better throttle response. Now just below that you have your electronic parking brake, which is becoming super standard in the industry. I like the traditional parking brake because if you feel like getting squirrely, you can, but hey, a lot of people like the electronic parking brakes, and it's very simple to use. This has an auto hold feature, which is surprising. It comes standard for the Mazda 3, and the reason I say that's surprising because the X2 BMW I just reviewed, which is a 100% nice car, sweet car, fun to drive, all that good stuff, it doesn't have an auto hold feature. So if you're not familiar with what the auto hold feature is, basically when you come to a stoplight and you don't want to have your foot on the brake, you can just press the auto hold button. Now just right of the electronic parking brake, you have your control system for the infotainment screen, and this is very similar to BMW's iDrive. Now the center console has a nice piano black finish lined with some aluminum accents as well. This is very popular again in the auto industry right now, and for good reason. It looks super nice. Okay, now taking a look at the storage in this vehicle, and you get first off this nice little pocket for your phone, your wallet, your keys, or all of the above. Pretty spacious in size, and it is lined in this rubber material, so whatever's in there is not going to slip too much. And then just below that is 2 cup holders, pretty standard stuff, and there's a cover on the cup holders as well, so if you don't want them exposed. From there is the heart of all the storage, and it's not the biggest in here, but you can fit, I'd say, around like 4 standard size water bottles, so it's adequate 100%. And then you get a USB port and a standard 12-volt outlet in here as well. And this armrest actually slides. Now obviously one of the most important things in the interior of any car is the seats, and in this Mazda 3 they are definitely very comfortable and stylish looking at that. They do offer a bit of side bolstering, so you won't slide around too much. Very nice. I'd say the seats are on the plush side rather than the firm side. Not to say that they're like too cushiony or anything. Now the material that these seats are made of is that synthetic leather, and honestly it feels really good. It's hard to tell that this isn't just real leather. Now as far as leg space and headroom goes for the front of this Mazda 3, and it is definitely plenty adequate. I have my legs fully extended. The seat isn't all the way back. I'm about 5'10", and I just have plenty of leg space. As far as headroom, I'd say it's about 5-6 inches. Now this seat is sitting higher than the driver's seat. Honestly, you probably get like an additional 1 to 2 inches more of headroom in the driver's seat, so that's something to take note of. Now moving around and taking a look at the door panels themselves, and then right up here is it's kind of hard to the touch. It's got a little bit of softness to it, if that makes any sense, but honestly I don't think many people will be resting their arms way up here unless you're like a really big person. And then from there you get the nice leatherette finish with the stitching. It's actually a contrasted stitching. It's this brown stitching. It looks really good against the black. Now my favorite part of the door panel, and one of my favorite parts of the interior as a whole, is these aluminum speaker grills. They're Bose sound system. There's 12 speakers throughout the cabin, and it looks so nice, especially in contrast against this black leather. Just adds an extra level of ambiance to the car, makes it look a lot more luxurious, and just how good they sound, it really is pretty crazy. The last two vehicles that I've reviewed in a month span has been a Tesla Model 3 Performance, about a $70,000 car, and a BMW X2, which was almost $50,000. Both of those sounded great, but this sounds just as good as those, and it gets louder than both of those systems. Now, in regards to the infotainment system, it's a very easy to use. I'm just going to go over it briefly, just discussing a little bit about each tab, just for the sake of time. So the first tab you get is the information tab. And essentially what that shows is your fuel efficiency monitor. And then below that you have Sirius XM Travel Link. When you get the preferred package, you get a 3-month trial of that included. Now the last thing I want to talk about on the tab is the owner's manual. It is all integrated into the infotainment system, so you don't have to physically pull out the owner's manual if you have a question about your car. Just below the information tab is the entertainment tab, and this is where you connect your phone. You can play music, whether it be Bluetooth or the radio, and the radio in this vehicle is HD radio, so the quality of the radio stations will sound better. That is a nice plus. Also, what's awesome about this infotainment system is that it's compatible with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Down from the entertainment tab, you have your communications tab, and this essentially controls all the phone functionality. So if you want to dial someone, check your call logs, read a text message, everything can be done from that tab itself. Now the last tab on the list is the settings tab, and it's just how it sounds. You can control settings, whether it be the sound settings, safety settings, vehicle settings, connectivity settings, system settings, the list goes on and on. Now taking a look at one of my favorite things in the interior of this vehicle, and that is none other than this 3-spoke steering wheel. It is very nice to hold, and it is very reminiscent of a BMW M car steering wheel, such as an M2 or M3. So it's super sporty. And if you plan on taking this vehicle on any type of spirited drive, then you get rewarded for having your hands in the proper position. Now the steering wheel is wrapped in a very smooth leather. It's not like squishy or anything, but it's still very, very nice to hold. And the steering wheel is also complemented from a look standpoint with these silver accents. Now the buttons on the right of the steering wheel are for your radar cruise control. This comes standard with all 2020 Mazda 3 models, so that is really awesome to see. There is so many other way more expensive cars out there that do not come standard with radar cruise control. Now the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel are pretty standard as well. They control, you know, flipping through stations through the radio or changing the track on your own personal playlist. And then also you have volume up and down buttons, and then there's buttons to answer the call or hang up. Now just beyond the steering wheel, you get 2 column stocks. On the right hand side controls your windshield wiper functionality, and on the left controls your headlights. This car comes equipped standard with auto high beams, and the automatic high beams work so flawlessly. It is so nice to have maximum brightness of your headlights and not have to worry about blinding people. Now moving past the column stocks, you get your gauge cluster, and it is very easy to read and intuitive. The tachometer on this vehicle is analog, however the speedometer is completely digital. It's got a nice big screen, and it shows a plethora of information. Now what I really like about the interior roof of this vehicle is it's black vinyl instead of tan vinyl, which can get stained super easy. The black just looks more premium, and it's far less easy to pick up smudges. Now looking at the sun visors themselves, and they are definitely practical, I'm happy to note that these have vanity mirrors that are illuminated on the driver and the passenger. That comes standard, and it is an LED light, so it looks super nice, as well as having another little extra level of protection against some of the sun's glare. Okay folks, now sitting in the back seats of this vehicle, and first let me talk about the headspace and legroom. So the headspace, honestly, I have about around 3 or 4 inches of headspace, so that's pretty adequate. Again, I'm about 5'10", so if you're 6 foot and under, you have no problems with the headspace back here. And as far as leg space, the seat is in a neutral seating position. and I have probably about 4 to 5 inches of leg space. So again, pretty nice. Definitely do not feel claustrophobic back here, which is a good thing. And then there's an armrest with 2 cup holders. Now taking a look at the seats themselves, and they are pretty supportive. You know, you could sit like slouched over, or you can sit nice and upright. They're comfortable either way. They're on the softer side. What I do like about the seats is there is still a little bit of side bolstering, so it kind of keeps you in place, but at the same time it does not feel claustrophobic at all. Okay, now getting this 2020 Mazda 3 hatchback out on the road, and my initial impressions is this vehicle is absolutely so easy to drive and fun at that. Really, for the price point, I mean, it's hard to get a vehicle that's new like this, that's practical, and yet so fun and zippy to drive. It's not the fastest thing in a straight line, but going around corners, you can actually carry quite a bit of speed. And you know, the steering rack is quick, it's pretty responsive. It's nothing like a BMW or a Porsche, of course not, but it's definitely up there, above a lot. It's above average, put it that way. When you want to turn, the car turns, and it is playful while doing so. It is a playful car, 100%. So right now I'm driving around in comfort mode, just trying to relax, and the car is buttery smooth, to be honest. I mean, it goes over bumps really well. The suspension is just slightly on the firm side, so some of those bigger bumps do somewhat upset the cabin, but the car always stays planted. Even when I take it like over a big bump, it's still planted. It doesn't feel like it's skipping around everywhere, and it's actually remarkably isolated. You get a tiny bit of like road noise from the tires, but very minimal. I think you get, to be honest, at least from my findings, you get a tiny bit more wind noise, but it is, again, so slight. It's very comparable, the isolation in this Mazda 3 to the BMW X2 that I just reviewed, which is pretty astounding, to say the least. I will say the most thing you can hear is this naturally aspirated 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder. Doesn't sound the best, to be entirely honest, but my bar is set really high because I have an M235 with a full exhaust system on there, so I'm used to hearing like a real nice sound. You know, it's not the worst. It doesn't drone or anything. This is a standard 6-speed automatic transmission. Yeah, with that sport mode functionality, you just get a little bit sharper throttle response. The gears, the transmission goes into a sportier mode as well, so it holds gears a little bit longer, like a, you know, like a manual transmission, a dual clutch automatic. And there's full throttle right there. Woo! She's quick. And I take that back. The engine doesn't sound that bad when it's in sport mode. For whatever reason, it sounds not bad. It's okay. I rate it like I'll be generous and I'll give it a 7 out of 10, just for what it is. I mean, that's being pretty generous. It's more like a 6 out of 10, but hey, it's above average, right? That's what counts. Now, this vehicle being naturally aspirated, so that means there's no turbocharger, obviously no supercharger, and because of that, the power, the torque is pretty instantaneous, which is so pleasurable. You don't have to wait for the turbo to spool up with this car. It's just boom, right there. As soon as you want that power, it's happy to give it to you. And you gotta appreciate that. Going around this corner nice and quick. Now, you do feel that this vehicle is front wheel drive when you're going around corners really fast. I mean, if this was a rear wheel drive platform, man, you could definitely have a lot of fun. It would be just a bigger Miata almost, honestly, in the way it handles. So wish it was rear wheel drive. Probably never gonna happen, but hey, it's still handles well, and there's minimal torque steer. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you couldn't tell already, I really enjoyed this Mazda 3. It went above and beyond my expectations of it, especially in the driving department. It is super fun to drive. It corners well. It's actually pretty quick in a straight line, and it's well insulated at that. As far as the interior goes, it definitely looks luxurious, especially for the price point. And the speakers, just blew me out of the water. Definitely went above and beyond my expectations. Now, not to mention, this car is very practical. There's a lot of storage space thanks to it being a hatchback, and you know, coming in at $26,000, this is a lot of car for that money. So definitely highly recommend it. Anyways guys, I'm gonna just wrap this video up now. Finally, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe it was just for the entertainment value. I don't know. But as always guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace.